over the coming years, you're going to see more and more electric vehicles. We've got plans we've got another couple of vehicles coming out next year. We've got the new RZ coming out. We've got new ES coming out as well. But we're going to get more and more electric vehicles as we start to move forward. The game is, the plan is to have a full electric fleet in plenty of time for when the legislation comes in. I think it helps a little bit now that we can now continue to sell hybrid electric vehicles up until 2035. So it's not just going to be a cut-off. It's all got to be electric. So it all stops in 2030, but we can carry on selling the hybrid electric vehicles up to 2035.
Welcome to Sustainability Transformations podcast, where we explore bold ideas to drive positive change for people and business. And today, I'm so pleased we have Paul Crockett, who is the Center Business Manager at Lexus Bristol. He has exceptional customer experience on innovation and environmental entrepreneurship, with key skills around the IMI accredited professional, where he's driving towards a future where luxury and sustainability intersect so seamlessly. Welcome again, Paul. Can you introduce yourself and what gets you excited around the Lexus vehicle and sustainability?
Thanks for having me. So, as you mentioned, I'm the Centre Business Manager here at Lexus Bristol. So I look predominantly after fleet customers. So I help companies sort of explore their fleet opportunities. As you say, I'm also interested in sustainability and how companies can have a more sustainable outlook to their sort of transport needs, and also help potentially from an image point of view. It can be seen to be doing the right thing as well, but also from an environmental point of view, how it can potentially help with their Scope 1, Scope 2 emissions reporting, and looking at their sustainable vehicle choices and try to take a more sustainable approach. Lexus it's a very exciting brand to work in. We're part of obviously Toyota, so we're the largest motor manufacturer in the world, arguably. But Lexus has got a rich history in not only in hybrid vehicles, but now in plug-in hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles. We've got more and more cars coming online. We're going to have another 10 electric vehicles by 2030. So it's moving forward, and there's some exciting new developments coming on the horizon.
So to kick things off, perhaps expanding on, Lexus has intentionally positioned itself as a leader in sustainability within the automotive world. It's been around for a number of years. From your perspective as a business development leader, how does this expand into conversations around smart cities and sustainability?
Well, I think it's integration. I mean, Lexus are very committed to electrifying their vehicle range, and integrating that into smart city design is important. Having a integrated transport system is key to smart city development. We've got the woven city development over in Japan, and that's exploring all the sort of real life problems and solutions that can happen by going for a integrated smart city. So it's looking at employing sustainable vehicles, also sustainable materials as well, incorporating them into the design and production of the new vehicles, and also including those into the cities as well. It's exciting times. Lexus are very much at the cutting edge of EV and electric vehicle development. As I say, there's some exciting developments coming down the track. So it is a really interesting time.
You mentioned about the materials. Are there any circularity initiative or net zero initiatives which are intertwined with Lexus EV development on a global scale or from a UK scale?
Yes, Lexus and Toyota are very much into circularity production, and it's all about end of life. It's trying to recover as many vehicles as possible and looking to recycle and reuse and repurpose as many of the materials as possible. Lexus are very keen, and Toyota are, to keeping as many of their vehicles that are on the road within the Lexus net and Toyota net. We do this in a number of ways, providing excellent customer service, and so that customers don't feel they want to sort of step out from without outside of the sort of Toyota Lexus network, the extended warranties that we offer. So it keeps people within the network, and that enables us to keep an eye on the vehicles and any opportunities to recycle, repurpose those vehicles at the end of life. And that's the key to circularity production, really. It's not just building something, then selling it and then forgetting about it. It's having a responsibility, I suppose you could say, to repurpose and recycle that vehicle moving forward. Because as we all know, electric vehicles and battery electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, they're not the most, there's quite a lot of technology involved and some of those rare earth materials that go into the production. So if they can be recycled and repurposed, that's only going to be a good thing.
Yeah. How is consumer behavior or consumer actions involved or essential in Lexus delivering the circularity?
Yeah, I think it's important that moving forward that customers embrace the move to EV. It's something that's definitely going to happen. I think there's still a lot of misconceptions out there. I think Lexus and Toyota have in mind that it's not going to just be electric vehicles. It's also going to be hybrid and plug-in hybrid. Hydrogen fuel cells could potentially play a part in the future as well. So it's exploring all these different sort of platforms and systems that are available. EV will certainly suit more people than they realise. There's a lot of misconceptions around it with range anxiety and difficulty in charging, but I think more people could go to a full electric vehicle than they realise. But it's also the motivation for the change as well, because people will change for a number of different reasons. You will get people that look to change, for environmental reasons, clean air reasons, which are all very, very valid, but also people would make the change because of for monetary reasons. Cost of running and cost of ownership is an important factor to take into consideration, especially for businesses, because at the end of the day, they're always looking at their bottom line, which is a sensible thing to do. So there's a number of reasons and reasons behind a person or a company's motivation for changing their car, and it's important to explore those reasons and not just try to sell somebody a product because that's what you think they should be buying. It's exploring those reasons and those motivations behind their decision to change.
Is it safe to say those motivations is the same as the expectations going forward, or they are two separate things? So like the motivations
I,
and the
th- I,
expectations.
I think it is an interesting time in the motoring industry. The reasons why people change is one thing, but also technology is moving very, very rapidly. Battery technology is getting better and better all the time. Charging infrastructure is getting better. I don't think we'll ever get to a stage where I personally, and this is purely a personal thing, I don't think we'll get to a stage where it's going to be 100% electric vehicles. I think it's going to be a mix of propulsion systems that people are going to use. But it's the technology that's moving very, very quickly because it's changing so rapidly. There's new technology coming. We've got new vehicles coming out that have got enhanced battery life, quicker charging cycles, and that's the key. It's the charging time. If you can get to a stage where you can charge the car relatively quickly, or if not 80% charge relatively quickly, then it becomes a more feasible and viable option for people to sort of consider.
Talking about charging, is it going to be significant improvement or achievement coming from government in charge installing charging stations in the community? So, for example, like local councils installing charging stations, or it's going to come from businesses having their own charging stations compared to, for example, the petrol stations, which are separate from automotive companies who sell the petrol and diesel, as an example.
Charging infrastructure is still. I'd probably say it's still the main concern that people have with their step to going full EV. If the charging infrastructure was to improve, then it would be such an easier conversation to have with a customer because it's something that they are concerned about. And you've only just got to look at the makeup of in Bristol, for example, we've got so many terraced houses, apartment blocks. It's not necessarily practical for every single person in particular situation to have an electric vehicle, because realistically speaking, you're not going to be able to have a charging point for every single electric vehicle. So the on-street charging is an option to consider, I think, but we do tend to sometimes get a bit mixed messaging from the government. There's this drive to go to full electric vehicles and so on and so forth. Home charging has a lower rate of VAT than public charging. So to bring that public charging VAT down, that would certainly bring the cost of, for example, you can charge at home overnight if you've got the right sort of tariff for, 5-6p per kilowatt hour. Whereas if you go to a public charging point, a petrol station, for example, across the road, then you can be looking upwards of 38, 39, 40p a kilowatt hour. So it makes a big difference in terms of the cost of charging. And if that circle can be squared, then that becomes it becomes more viable. More people then going to potentially look to go down the full electric route. So as a sort of stepping stone, a lot of people are considering and going for plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. It's the sort of next logical step if you've had a hybrid vehicle to go to a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, because that could work just as well for you. I delivered a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle to a customer the other day. She lives 2 miles from work. She can drive the whole week as a full electric vehicle. And then at the weekend, when she does a bit more mileage, she's got the option of going for to drive the vehicle as a hybrid vehicle, and supplement that with a bit of charge. She's got a charging point at home, which she can charge overnight for, as I say, 4 or 5 pence per kilowatt hour. So she's got the best of both worlds. So there are solutions, and it's about having those meaningful conversations with people. It's not trying to just put someone into a box, say, right, you've got to have an electric vehicle. It's looking at the number of factors, their motivation, their reason, their wants, why they want to make the change, and then trying to find a suitable vehicle that meets their requirements. It may turn out that a full electric vehicle isn't the right thing for them to go for. They may be better served by going for a hybrid vehicle or a plug-in hybrid vehicle. So it's about having those meaningful conversations.
It's not an electric vehicle question, but more of a customer question, which is around, in general, if any company is selling any product to a customer, they will look at their motivations and their interest and what applies to them. So yeah, it's safe to say that it's a general thing to find out from a customer and appreciate what their interests are, what it is they want the product or the service to deliver. And the reason for highlighting that is sometimes I find it may appear a different rule book is being applied to sustainability.
Yeah, I think, yes, I understand what you're saying. Yes, I think you could be right. Sometimes it's the sustainability above everything else. Sometimes sustainability can come across as, well, you've got to do it because it's sustainable. It may not necessarily be the right thing to do. And that's one approach that I tend to try to take with when I'm speaking to companies and, raising the profile of Lexus, because we're not always the first consideration when companies are looking for, new vehicles. So, we appreciate that we're not their first choice. So to be trying to offer a consultative approach to a customer, whatever you're selling, not assuming someone's going to buy something. People buy from people, so having that personal rapport and being approachable and easy to do business is just as important as having the right product, really. But yeah, it's consulting with the customer and sort of understanding. I think understanding their motivation is key. I mean, the simple analogy is that with the mining that goes into the rare earth materials for an electric vehicle, if your sole motivation is you're buying it because it's the green thing to do, it's the sustainable thing to do, and you're worried about the carbon footprint that you're leaving behind, so to speak. If you buy an electric vehicle, a full electric vehicle, you need to run it for a certain period of time, doing a certain amount of miles to offset the carbon that went into producing that vehicle in the first place. And you might find that a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle is a better solution because its carbon footprint is a lot lower. So there's all those sort of considerations to take into account. That's why it's important to understand the reason for the change, because it doesn't necessarily have to solely come down to carbon footprint. You could be more concerned about air quality and pollution. I mean, the car's getting greener and greener all the time. All our cars are Euro 6 emissions standards, so clean air zones, ultra low emission zones, they're all qualified for that. But people are still concerned about the quality of the air, especially in urban areas like, for example, Bristol, Birmingham, London, all those sort of places, which is why you have these ultra low emission zones in the first place. So it's important to understand the motivations and the reasons for buying. It could be as simple as, I want to be more sustainable, and having the understanding of what that means to a company is important, which is why it's something that I've got an interest in, sustainability and how it affects a company's decision-making criteria. But you're right, it sometimes the thing to be seen to be doing, being sustainable. Everybody, all companies now have a sustainability advocate or a sustainability consultant that, tries to understand the company's sort of outlook and how they are viewed and how their sustainability works.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
reporting or
yeah.
communication, but less impact on what it is that they've reported on.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the distinction between a hybrid a plug-in hybrid and an electric vehicle? Because maybe from the customer, the audience perspective, you can give that clear distinction between what is the hybrid, the plug-in hybrid, and the EV.
As soon as you start talking about electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, there's an acronym city. You've got all different sort of options, but so there's a number of different hybrid vehicles or hybrid system vehicles that are available, and they are very distinct. And what one does different from the other ones. The one that you sometimes see around, it's still around, and a couple of manufacturers do it. We don't do it. Is the mild hybrid electric vehicle. So essentially, what this is, you've got a regular combustion engine with a small battery pack that adds power, so supplements power to the combustion engine. Doesn't drive the wheels of the vehicle, but it will run some of the auxiliary systems. So you can have a smaller combustion engine, but with the addition of the electric motor, you get more power and more performance. So it makes it a more efficient vehicle, but it's still classed as a hybrid, but it's a mild hybrid electric vehicle. And there's still a couple of manufacturers that do, and it is a good system because you get a lot of the benefits: stop-start facility. It runs a lot of the auxiliary systems. So, like, for example, your air conditioning, all those sort of bits and pieces, and it supplements power to the combustion engine, but it doesn't drive the vehicle. It doesn't have any hybrid drive capability at all. You go from there, then you've got hybrid vehicle. So that's essentially what Lexus and Toyota, most of our vehicles are hybrid electric vehicles. So again, you've got a small combustion engine, you've got a combustion engine, you've got a small electric motor that will drive the car. So under certain circumstances and certain conditions, the car will drive under full electric power, but not for a huge distance. You're talking maybe a mile at most, but it's a fully self-regenerating system. So that mile, it will do fairly regularly, depending on how you drive the vehicle. So it makes use of cadence braking. It makes use of deacceleration to recharge. As soon as you take your foot off the accelerator, petrol engine will shut down and all the energy is converted through the converter back into the battery to charge the battery up. So you get that predominantly short range of electric vehicle capability. If you accelerate too hard or give the car too much power, it'll immediately kick back to the petrol engine. But you've got that hybrid vehicle. Then you move on to plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and this is essentially where you've got a bigger electric motor system coupled to a combustion engine, and you'll get a greater range. You'll generally get as an average around 40 miles of full electric vehicle range. Once that range is gone, you plug the car in to charge the system back up again overnight, and then you can get that 40-mile range. But you can drive the car in a number of different modes. With our vehicle, you can drive it as a hybrid electric vehicle. So essentially what that does is it ring fences or protects your big battery, and you drive the car as a hybrid electric vehicle like the rest of our range, and you're saving predominantly the majority of your battery for city driving. So for example, if you knew you were driving into London and you wanted to save all your EV range for whilst you're driving around London, you could drive to London as a hybrid electric vehicle, protecting the majority of your big battery, and then switch to electric vehicle mode when you got into the city, and then switch back to hybrid vehicle when you came out of the city. But you can charge the car up whilst driving. They have a system called the generator mode. It's not the most efficient way because not only are you using the combustion engine to drive the car, but you're also using the combustion engine to charge up the battery. Alternatively, you can drive it in pure electric mode and then drive it for 40 miles, and then when the battery runs out, it switches back to combustion engine. The difference with our vehicles is that once the big battery is depleted, the car will still drive as a hybrid electric vehicle. So that differentiates our vehicle from a lot of the other manufacturers that are out there. And then the final one, you've got battery electric vehicle. And as it says, it's pure battery. So range depends. I mean, our cars, we've got new vehicles coming out, an updated RZ coming out towards the end or start of next year. So you're going to have 350 to 400 miles of full electric vehicle range. Again, depending on how you're driving the vehicle. And again, you charge the car up when you start to get low on charge. So that's essentially the range of hybrid vehicles that you tend to have.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's such a useful for the audience and certainly for me as well. I can always refer back to this if there is, because within the
There are a
markets.
number of different. People always say the range. So you've got other manufacturers that get in, with their electric vehicles, so the battery electric vehicles, that are saying they've got huge ranges. So they've got far greater ranges than I have than of their vehicles. But one of the things that Lexus is very keen on is keeping the driving dynamics of the vehicles. So we don't use the huge batteries. I mean, some manufacturers have got ranges of like, you know, nearly 500, 600 miles, but it's only because they've got huge battery packs within the vehicles. And that does affect the dynamic of the car, the weight, the driving capabilities of the vehicle. It's a lot of engineering to get it to that stage where it can cope with, 1,000, 1,500 kilos of batteries on the car. Whereas our battery systems are a lot lighter, so the car doesn't lose any of its dynamics and its driving capabilities, and also space as well. It's maximizing space because the batteries have got to go somewhere.
As batteries get more efficient or effective, then fingers
They
crossed,
should
the
get
weights
smaller.
should.
That's the goal. It's getting to the stage where, you can get bigger and bigger ranges out of the batteries, but the batteries get smaller and smaller and smaller. That's the key. If you can get to that stage where, I mean, they're obviously always going to be of a certain size, but if you can get them smaller and lighter, then that just makes things that much more straightforward, really, from a car design and from a charging point. The solid state battery is what a lot of manufacturers are striving towards. It basically, a greater charge and a greater or quicker ability to charge the vehicle up is the key.
Can you share how plant-based materials or recyclability factor or life cycle thinking is embedded in Lexus brand positioning in the market?
Yeah, so I mean, again, it goes back to circularity. So it's important to recycle and repurpose as much of the products. We try to incorporate a lot of natural materials, a lot of bamboo products go into the vehicles in terms of the finishings within the vehicle. So it's incorporating a lot of those. But it's the main thing is the repurposing and recycling of materials. Really, that's why the circularity production system or circularity factory design is important. Getting those vehicles back at end of life to recycle and reuse those materials. That's the key. I mean, because there's going to be thousands and cars a year that are going to come to their natural end of life. So especially more so, bizarrely enough, with electric vehicles, because the technology is going to move on. It's like iPhones. There's always going to be, or any mobile phone, for example. There's always going to be a market for the older phones because we see them for sale all the time, but people want the latest tech, and you can see that it's not a stretch to imagine that same philosophy applying to the motor trade and to electric vehicles. People are going to want the latest sort of technology for that. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's all going to be about, really.
All right. Can you walk us through Lexus plans to transition to all vehicles to battery electric vehicles by 2035?
Over the coming years, you're going to see more and more electric vehicles. We've got we've got another couple of vehicles coming out next year. We've got the new RZ coming out. We've got new ES coming out as well. But we're going to get more and more electric vehicles as we start to move forward. Their game is, their plan is to have a full electric fleet in plenty of time for when the legislation comes in. I think it helps a little bit now that we can now continue to sell hybrid electric vehicles up until 2035. So it's not just going to be a cut-off. It's all got to be electric. So it all stops in 2030, but we can carry on selling the hybrid electric vehicles up to 2035. I think that's going to affect a lot of what we tend to do. But Lexus and Toyota are clearly transitioning towards full EV vehicles. More and more, the range is going to be full electric. Be interesting to see what happens in North America, because obviously their legislation, Lexus are very big in North America. We're one of the major manufacturers over there, or in Canada, and supply to the US, and we are the premium number one brand that people want to tend to go for a luxury electric vehicles and luxury vehicles. But President Trump is sort of he's rolling back a lot of his sustainable initiatives and electric initiatives. And one of them is, obviously, they were supposed to have a 50% mandate by 2030 for electric vehicles, and they've scrapped that. So that's going to play a part, undoubtedly. But yeah, Lexus and Toyota are fully committed to the transition to battery electric vehicle future, because we've only got one planet. We've got to do something about it. We've got to, reverse the decline if at all possible.
How is Lexus known for its 360 sustainability approach?
Well, I think it's intelligent design is a key thing. As I say, we're heavily involved in the approach of life cycle thinking into electric production of vehicles, and looking at, it's not just a case about building a vehicle. It's looking at how that vehicle is going to be used for its lifestyle or its life, and then the repurposing and recycling of that vehicle all the way through. Carbon neutrality goals are key as well. You know, eco-friendly products, eco-friendly plastics into the vehicles, trying to develop and reduce the carbon footprint. We're trying to get net zero, which is a big goal for a lot of companies. We've got new production facilities opening in Japan, dedicated production systems for Lexus. They spend a huge amount on research and development into the future and looking at new options and new vehicle solutions. So it's certainly something that's very much in Lexus's mind, and as we move forward into a forever changing world.
Looking at the B2B pitch side, where I believe sustainability is innovating for impact that drives environment, people, and economic outcomes. So if you have a procurement leader or a chief financial officer or any of the business leaders who are keen to take action with the decarbonization of their transport fleet, whether it's decarbonization of their company vehicles for their leaders or the fleet, where would be a good starting point to have that conversation around lower running costs or tax incentives or brand value, would you say, from a B2B pitch?
Yeah, it's starting to have a conversation. You know, look at usage as well. You know, how are their vehicles being used at the moment, especially if they've got commercial vehicles. How are their commercial vehicles being used? You know, do they have downtime? If they've got downtime, because one of the things that companies are always very, very keen on, especially with commercial vehicles, is that they want that vehicle to be operating in an ideal world all the time. Because obviously, when it's not being used, it's not earning them any money effectively. You know, you're not making deliveries, not picking stuff up, they're not transporting goods around. But it's important to look at the usage of the vehicles, how the vehicles are being used. Because if there is a system, if they have got downtime, then obviously that's potentially an opportunity to explore looking at electric vehicles, which obviously would be a good way of reducing their sort of carbon and make them a bit more sustainable. So it's looking at, and also looking at total cost of ownership. That's an important thing. You know, when the vehicle's always going to be off the road, but you want them to be off the road for certain reasons, you know, routine maintenance, MOTs if they have them that long and things like that. So, you know, reliability, durability of the product they're going to be choosing is key, really, because it's no point having the flashiest vehicle on the road if it's in the garage every 2 minutes. So having a reliable product is key, and you know, you can't get any more reliable than Toyota and Lexus, really, especially Lexus. You know, we are one of the most reliable brands on the marketplace. So there's a whole gamut of things that they would need to take into account, really. Total cost of ownership, usage, as I said before, the motivation for the change, and then it all then comes down to cost and brand image and how we fit, or how, you know, we align with their sort of values. That's what we'd like to think customers think about, not just, you know, the bottom line cost, which obviously is important, but you know, we want to sort of embody the values of the customer effectively. You know, we've got a lot of companies that we do a lot of business with within the Bristol area that we have a natural fit with. It's important.
To explore the total cost of ownership, how do business leaders change their mindset from traditional ways of payback period, but not looking at the total cost of ownership? Is that a natural revelation which they embrace, or it takes time to? Is there a mindset shift with those new ways of economic modeling, which makes financial sense?
Yeah, I mean, most fleet managers, if you're looking at a proper fleet customer, they're fairly clued on to ownership. But I think a lot of the time it's surprising how many of them don't factor that in, really. I mean, you know, factor in all sorts of things. You know, fuel is one thing, cost of the vehicle is another. You know, service regime. You know, how often does it need a service? The warranty. You know, what does warranty cover? If the car is off the road, you know, can the customer then get into a courtesy car if needed? That does the garage offer that facility, which is fairly common for passenger vehicles, but not so common for commercial vehicles. You know, so if you've got an independent contractor, for example, that's got a van through you, when his van's off the road, can we keep him on the road whilst his car's in for a service? being flexible in terms of how we offer our service, delivery and collection, because that can make a huge factor as well. If the customer can be inconvenienced but can carry on still working, yes, they may not be on the road, but if they can work from home for a day. So there's a lot of factors to take into account that go into the sort of magic number of the total cost of ownership. It's not just the cost of the vehicle. It's lots of things to sort of take into account, and going through those with a customer and having a direct comparison makes them realise, oh, actually, it makes it a more financial choice. The thing with looking at total cost of ownership, that's when it comes down to a pure monetary value. Really, that's important for some companies, but it's not necessarily the most important thing. But it's certainly a consideration to take into account. And Toyota and Lexus, certainly Toyota and Lexus, come out very strongly in terms of total cost of ownership.
It's a factor of consideration whether or not that is the priority. It
Exactly.
depends
It's something
on.
that it's something they should be completely aware of, really, because you want a customer going into a situation where they're fully aware of all the implications of what their purchase potentially is going to cost them.
What is a current project or initiative that Lexus Bristol or you are involved, which you are excited about, that you want to share?
So the biggest thing, and I guess I might see you there, is the Festival of Sustainable Business down in Bristol in a couple of weeks' time. Down at the Beacon, starts on Monday the 9th and Tuesday the 10th of June. We're down there. We're one of the contributing partners, so we're going to be on display. Going to have a couple of electric vehicles outside for people to have a look around. I'll be there sort of to answer any questions that people might have about vehicle choices, sustainability, just highlighting some of the things that make Lexus or makes Lexus stand out from the rest of the manufacturers that are around at the moment. We're also hopefully having someone down there to talk about circularity production as well from Toyota and Lexus. Yes, it's a really exciting event. This is our second year of being one of the sponsors, and it should be a great 2 days.
We've talked about the short term. What is coming down the trend 5 years within the Lexus Bristol or within the EV space that you are excited about?
Yes, I say we've got a bit of a quiet year for us this year in terms of products. But towards the end of this year, early next year, we've got the new ES, which is our four-door saloon. So that's coming out. It's going to be available as a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and an electric vehicle variant. So that's going to be exciting. We've got the new generation ES coming out. So there's going to be a 350, a 450, and a 550. So they're all going to have greater ranges and more dynamic driving styles, which should be good. And then we've got new vehicles coming out. There's rumours that Lexus are going to get a Hilux, a Land Cruiser size vehicle, which would be good. So a bigger version. There's also going to potentially be a 7-seater coming out in the not too distant future. So there's lots of exciting products coming out. I think over the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to see probably 4 or 5 new Lexuses onto the market, which will be very exciting.
What is your parting message for the audience, Paul?
Don't be afraid to have the conversation. Electric isn't scary. It's just about having the conversation. If you are looking at electric vehicles or looking to explore your options, whether it be because of environmental concerns or sustainability issues, have the conversation. Come in and see me. Be happy to talk you through options that are available to you. Get you out to experience the vehicles as well, which is the key thing. And let me see what I can do for you.
That's great. Thank you, Paul, for your time, for those incredible insights. You've shared a key journey, and I'm sure even from the breakdown of the different types of hybrids, which is so clear, yeah, definitely we can see the excitement around the event. So, as a final part, if listeners want to find more about your work, where can they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. Just search my name or come and see me at Bristol Lexus. We're on Cribbs Causeway, just down from Marks and Spencer's. So very easy to find.
Oh, that's great. So, for viewers and listeners, when you look in the description of where you're watching or listening to this, you should be able to find Paul's LinkedIn and the company link details. Okay. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you.